Friends, good morning and welcome to the St. Michael stream. My name is Father Charles. I'm the vicar here. We are excited you are worshiping with us today. Be sure to take a second to like and share this video. Share it with your friends on Facebook or Twitter so that you can invite others to help worship with us and we can help them become saints, to become Jesus' friends. Today we're going to hear all about becoming better friends with Jesus and some practical steps on how to do that. If this ministry is a blessing in your life, please consider making a financial contribution to support our ongoing work. If you could like prayer, please put any prayer request in the chat box or click to request confidential prayer session with me.
Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. O Christ, whose voice the waters heard and hushed their raging at thy word, who walkest on the foaming deep and calm amid its rage did sleep. O hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. O Trinity of love and power, thy children shield in dangers hour from rock and tempest, fire and foe, protect them wheresoe'er they go. Thus evermore shall rise to thee glad hymns of praise from land and sea.
The story of David and Goliath is a classic Disney Channel or freeform coming-of-age, made-for-TV movie. You may remember this particular story from years gone by or from the last time you watched the Disney Channel. It's the classic tale of a big bad adult who is evil and no one can overcome until this plucky kid steps up and gets it done. Or is it that kind of story at all? Well, on one side you have Goliath, a giant of a man, roughly 10½ feet tall, more than 2 feet taller than Rubeus Hagrid from Harry Potter. On the other side you have David, a small, ruddy kid that no one thought or cared much about. And this giant of a man, Goliath, is a Philistine, sworn enemy of God's people. He is wicked and armed to the teeth. This mighty warrior comes daily and taunts, challenges, and threatens Israel and her armies. No one, not a single man, is willing or able to stand up to Goliath. Finally, a little boy steps forward and says he will fight the giant. The king and the other leaders do not at first want David to go and to fight Goliath. You're too small and weak, they say. You're too young and inexperienced, they say. You're going to be killed, they say. And while they don't say it, they are certainly thinking it. You are going to be defeated. We will lose this war. And when they finally agree to let David go and fight, there is a mixed sense of relief and terror. The king gives David his best armor and a shield and a sword. David looks like a proper warrior. Well, he sort of looks like a proper warrior. At least he looks like a kid playing dress-up in his dad's proper warrior clothes. He looks and feels ridiculous. And the king and all of God's people and Goliath and the Philistines look at David, and what they see is a kid in borrowed clothes that are too big. They see a kid who is hopeless and utterly unsuited to the job at hand. They see what most people would see. They are looking at the mettle of the man, or in this case boy, and they find him lacking. They are right about David and his own mettle and abilities. They are correctly assuming that David can't see them through the battle. See, the problem is not that David can't defeat Goliath. That's certainly the case. The problem is that everyone is thinking not like God's people, but like everyone else. The problem is they are trusting in themselves, and that trust is always misplaced. They are not just any other people like everyone else. They are God's people. They have somehow managed to forget Noah and the ark and the great flood and how God rescued them from global extinction. They forget about Jacob and how God rescued him from those who would harm him. They forgot about how God saved Abraham and his family from famine through Joseph, who they'd even tried to murder, but who God saved for the future of his promise to Abraham. And they forgot how God saved them from slavery in Egypt. They forgot about how God saved them from the Amorites and the Jebusites and the Canaanites and the Hittites and countless others. So Goliath is not a special case, but just one more in a series of existential threats to be dealt with. And little old David in his dress-up clothes tells them that the Lord God who has delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me. This little boy from Bethlehem takes off his ridiculous dress-up clothes, they aren't doing any good anyways, and steps up to face Goliath, trusting not in his skill or his slingshot or his stones, but in the Lord who has carried him safely thus far. David remembers who God is, and what God has done in the past. David knows he is not up to the job. He does not have what it takes to be up to the job, and it's okay, because God is up to the job. And true to form, the Lord dispatches that great and mighty warrior Goliath. Now, there's another little boy from Bethlehem who happened to be King David's greater son, if we can borrow a phrase from the Psalms, who, like David, comes to defeat the greatest, scariest enemy and existential threat of all, death. Jesus comes and defeats sin and death. Jesus comes and defeats that great and final enemy. And like God's people in times gone by, when faced with a great challenge, especially if that threat feels existential, somehow we manage to forget the stories of how God has delivered us, his people, in the past. We somehow forget to manage what God has done. So we begin taking inventory of our own resources and to work out how we are going to overcome this new enemy. I think this is natural, and it's sort of the way we're wired up. Now, I will confess to you that I fall into this same trap from time to time. Most recently, it's with the St. Michael's Church 2021 budget. Now, it looks like there is going to be a $60,000 or $65,000 budget shortfall. So naturally, I pull out the trusty spreadsheets and we start looking. Do we really need air conditioning? A $16,000 a year expense in a building this size, and we don't even bother to cool the offices during the week to keep that cost down. But even after doing spreadsheet magic and lots of hand-wringing in meetings, it occurred to me recently that maybe, just maybe, we should ask what Jesus wants us to do, and then trust he will find us the resources to do the things that we're supposed to be doing, and we will have to find the courage to let go of the things he doesn't want us to do. And when I look back at my life, I remember so many times standing before Goliath-sized problems, looking and feeling like a kid in dress-up clothes. There was that time in 2012 when I found out that I had late-stage cancer, and there was roughly, according to the oncologist, a 0% chance that I would not die from it. I remember back in seminary, doing the spreadsheets and the numbers. It's always about spreadsheets, isn't it? But there was always too much month left when our money ran out. I can remember as a child being diagnosed with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy and hurting, and barely being able to walk. But I remember God taking care of me, making sure that I got what I needed, healing from the muscular dystrophy, the money needed to pay my bills in seminary, healing from the cancer. I remembered that the Lord has delivered me from the paws of the bear and the lion and muscular dystrophy and cancer and financial ruin so many times before, and He will see me through once again. That little boy, David, knew something that the king and all the wise and important people had forgotten, something that we forget. David knew that the God who had seen him through so far was not about to abandon him now. David knew that he was not up to the task, but the Lord was. So what are the big problems you face? Whatever they are, look back on your life and remember. Remember back to all the times that God has gotten you through somehow. Remember that you probably can't handle it. But it's okay. Because with Jesus, the two of you totally fit.